Hi, my name is Kira, and this is Chapter 7 of Boxcar to Nowhere. Chapter 7, Just Another Rail Yard. Hope started to despair. It seemed hours ago that the train had stopped. A couple of times they could hear voices of the railroad workers and train engines huffing into the distance. But their car was left standing right where it stopped. She looked again at the hatch, wondering. Yes, she would chance it. There was no other choice. Hand over hand, she climbed toward the handle she had secured previously. This time, it disengaged more easily, and afterward she could tell that the hatch would lift away if she pushed it hard enough. Jazzy was directly below her, intently watching her every move. "Jazzy," she said softly, "I'm going through, and in a few minutes I'll open the door and let you out. I promise I won't forget." Jazzy looked back at her, without moving, a furry statue attached to the floor. Then Hope pushed hard and sunlight streamed in as well as fresh air. She tentatively put her head out and looked around. They were no longer attached to a locomotive and instead parked on a side track. In the distance, she could see activity and smoke from several engines. And gratefully, there was no sign of Tate anywhere around. Just on the other side of the hatch was another ladder, this time headed toward the ground. After a bit of excitement getting on the steel ladder, she made it nearly to the ground and dropped the rest of the way. In the sunlight, she could see that her pure white sweater was heavily soiled with soot and dirt, as were her pants and shoes. She found the sliding door and saw a pin wedged in the lock mechanism. Once removed, the door slid open enough to let Jazzy explode through. He shook himself off and seemed to be smiling at her. For once, she had saved him instead of the other way around. "Jazzy," she said firmly, "stay beside me, and they won't clip you onto the leash. I can trust you, can't I?" One look at Jazzy's face said what words could never convey. She could trust Jazzy completely, even with her life, if it came to that. Together they started walking down the track, not knowing what they would encounter, but whatever it was, it would be better than another day inside a moving boxcar. By the time Hope noticed a group of rail yard workers standing together, she realized that they were all watching her and Jazzy. As she closed the distance to them, one man called out to her, "Hey, what are you doing here? Did you just get out of a boxcar?" Hope nodded a yes, but she wasn't sure if he had seen her answer. "Did you hear me?" the man asked with more anger and started moving toward her. "I'd advise you stay where you are. My dog wouldn't like it if you get too close," she said. She could hear the low growl, but doubted if the man could. He did notice the dog, though, and came to a stop several yards away. "What are you doing here, miss?" he asked. "We were locked in a boxcar behind us, and I have been traveling for more than a day. I don't even know where we are," Hope replied. "Can I ask how you got there in the first place?" "A man named Tate escaped from prison and locked us in there. Then the train took off." The worker took off his cap and scratched his head, then turned to the group behind him. "One of you guys go get the supervisor." "Miss, if you and your dog will walk with me, I'll lead you over there and let him handle this." "What is your name?" Hope asked. "Bob," he answered, looking a bit sheepish. "Sorry I was rude, miss. Before, I mean. What is your name?" "My name is Hope, and this is Jazzy," she said, patting his head. "When we first spotted you, I have to admit it was a shock seeing a pretty girl amid all this rolling stock. I thought I was dreaming for a moment. Then I saw the dog. Mighty big and dangerous dog. Sure you can handle him?" "I don't really control him. He does what he wants at times, but mostly does what I want him to. He just seems to know," Hope answered. "He was a police dog, and now he is mine. Don't worry. The way he is looking at me, I wouldn't dare get any closer." They started walking slowly toward a group of buildings, Bob in the lead. Frequently, Bob would look back and reassure himself that they were staying behind him. There was an older man approaching from the front. He wore a large brimmed hat over a white shirt with suspenders. The man stopped to talk to Bob before acknowledging Hope and Jazzy. Then he started moving toward them. Hope noticed that the man had a pronounced limp and was smiling at them. "So, you found us, and we found you," he exclaimed. Jazzy was watching the man closely, but there were no threats from him at this time. "I would guess that you are Hope and her dog?" "Jazzy, am I right?" he asked. "In case you were wondering, I heard your name from Bob just now. But I have had calls about you all morning. We had no idea that you were here, but now it all makes a lot of sense." "Was that my dad who was calling?" Hope asked. "No one said anything about being your dad. The entire police force in your town is looking under every rock for you. Now, I understand your dad is a policeman, then?" "Sergeant Barros," Hope answered. "Will you tell him where we are?" "I sure will, Hope. Right away, too. Say, do you know how far you traveled in that boxcar?" "No, and I don't even know which direction we went, but I'll bet Jazzy knows." "I'm certain of that as well. It's a shocker, but you traveled about 300 miles. A train doesn't go very fast, but the miles just roll by. Say, until your dad gets here, you need some place to rest up and eat. Both of you do. I live about 2 miles from here, and my wife, Jill, is a grand old gal, and we would love to have you rest there until your dad comes." "And Jazzy also?" Hope asked. "Sure thing. We love dogs, especially big ones. Jazzy is welcome. Oh, and I am Superintendent Falls, but you can call me Jack if you will." "I need to tell you something important, Jack," Hope said, and waited until she got his full attention. "We were tracking a man named Jerome Tate who escaped from prison. Jazzy caught one of them yesterday, but I am very sure Tate was the man who locked us in the boxcar. And during the night, I heard somebody trying to open the hatch from outside. Have you seen any strangers around here other than us?" Jack took off his hat and banged the dust off of it, squinting into the distance. We always find some hobos who like to catch a ride for free, and we run them off. I did hear the men found one early this morning and told him to get. Never saw him myself. Guess he could have been the man you were looking for."